What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Madness, aka the QB Factory. That is who we are. That is who we were told our franchise that we love so much is they are a college campus recruiting quarterbacks to groom and develop and never play. I am your host, Rob Lange. As always, with me is my wonderful and talented co-host, Jessica Town. And ladies and gentlemen, if your favorite part of the madness is when we get angry, not necessarily at each other, but just angry in general, it's going to be a good episode. So, Jess, I just want to show you and the audience a couple things because I think it's important. Do you see this? You hear this, Jess? You see this? That's it. Super Bowl 52 champions, right? Great day, right? This was a great bottle of wine. And then you see this right here. I'm going to put that up. That's not a real one. That's just my replica. But I envision Howie Roseman as the type of guy who sits back and just looks at these things over and over again and said, well, I accomplished it. Now, I'll just do whatever. And that's because of the antics of this weekend in the highly anticipated, highly important Philadelphia Eagles NFL draft. The virtual NFL draft, which we'll talk about the fact that I thought it went off very smooth. I thought Roger Goodell was great throughout the entire thing. I was kind of impressed by him. But I was not impressed with our Philadelphia Eagles. And I know that we're going to kind of go pick by pick and go through it all. But before I get to, my overall feelings, Jess, I'm going to let you get off on the venting.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I mean, you and I talked about the fact that, it was such a crucial draft. They had so many picks that they needed to utilize all of them. And they have so many different spots where it's not like they are the Bengals or they are the Miami Dolphins or any team that needs to start from scratch. And, they're not a 1, 2, 3 win team that needs to figure out all of these different spots. They're still a good football team that had a couple needs that they desperately needed to address. So 10 picks in a draft should be more than enough to do that, along with free agency, what have you. Now, we talked about how starting with the offseason, I was very satisfied with what they had done to that point. I was very satisfied with the fact that they had addressed the defensive side of the ball in the spots that they needed to, other than linebacker, and we're kind of leaving everything else to this is what we're going to handle in the draft. And you could kind of see, here's what we've done so far. So it was pretty apparent with the positions that they needed to address Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So, obviously they trade for Darius Slay. They signed Roby Coleman. They make a lot of moves on that side of the ball. They moved Jalen Mills to safety. They re-signed McLeod, blah, 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 blah. And, so you solidify yourself up a little bit there. You get your number one corner. You get, another corner on a 1-year deal. They signed Will Parks as well, bringing another safety. So you handled that. So they needed to draft a linebacker, and then they obviously had to address the wide receiver position, and then maybe shore up the offensive line a little bit. And another safety is something that we wanted as well, that young safety that they could really, really build up for when, Rodney McLeod's gone or any of these other guys are gone. Now, the one position that they didn't need to address was backup quarterback, and for some reason they did, and I still can't figure out why. I mean, we can just start with the number one, their first round pick. Obviously you and I last week we spent all the time talking about how we wanted them to trade up and draft CeeDee Lamb. They obviously did not get up there, and I don't think it's for lack of effort. I think Howie tried everything he could to get up there. I'm not doubting that at all. But when they're sitting there at 21, you've got Justin Jefferson still on the board. So, we all think that's the pick. Really excited, looking forward to it. I'm trying to think. I have the draft order in front of me. I just want to see. No. Because there were a couple, leading up to the CeeDee Lamb pick and hoping he stayed there. There were a couple different ones that sounded like they might be starting to say CeeDee Lamb, where my heart skipped a beat and I grabbed onto things that were really close by. There weren't any of those for that to like tease me about Justin Jefferson, but you think that's going to be the pick. This is going to be great. We've got that number one receiver. We've got, the guy who led college football in receptions, over 100 catches, over 1,500 yards, I think 18 touchdowns. This is great. This is perfect. This is everything we need. Then in the second round, we can draft a linebacker or a safety and be happy and wonderful and move on. Then all of a sudden they draft Jalen Reagor. And it's not that I dislike Reagor as a player. I think he could be great. I think he might, if his there are a couple comparisons I've heard of him. There are two that are great. One's not so much. So the two that are great, they've said he's Deshaun Jackson 2.0. Fantastic. I'll take it. Done. Stephon Diggs 2.0. Spectacular. Sign me up. And then the other one is Nelson Aguilar 2.0. I don't like that one quite as much. Now, I talked a lot to our friend Chris Malley about, I said, I trust your opinion. I trust your scouting. Please explain to me why I should be excited about this guy on the Eagles in general. I'm not excited, but please explain to me why he's worth this first round pick over Justin Jefferson. And he basically said, a lot of his drops were product of bad quarterback play. Quarterback would throw it at his feet and he would get a fingertip on it so they would count it as a drop. He had one more drop than Justin Jefferson. And think about the quarterback discrepancy there. So I was like, okay, I don't have any problem with Jalen Reagor being an Eagle. I don't. I would have preferred Justin Jefferson at 21. That's just my opinion. Others feel differently. That's fine. If they would have drafted Justin Jefferson at 21 and then taken Jalen Reagor, traded up to take him in the second round or taken him at 53, I don't think he still would have been there at 53. Honestly, I think that the Vikings probably would have taken him at 22 if the picks just would have flip-flopped. But, I would have been okay with that. I don't have a problem with him being in an Eagles jersey. I just think there was a better option there at 21. And that's, you and I talked about how I didn't want the, he should be good. I'll trust it. I'll wait and see. He should be okay. He could be great. I wanted this guy caught 4 touchdown passes in the first half against Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And he shows up on the biggest stages, and that you automatically put him in there, and he's going to be an NFL player, and he's going to have an impact on the game. I wanted definitive assurance on this situation, especially because they weren't able to move Alshon Jeffrey. They still have all the money they do committed to Deshaun, and obviously Nelson Aguilar walked, and that's fine. But other than that, and you've got the Greg Wards and whatever, but I wanted someone that was a little bit more of a sure thing. But I'm excited to see what Jalen Reagor could bring. So that was my first night. I was like kind of deflated just about that. Moving into the second night, I was like, okay, you know what? I'd be okay if they took another receiver here. That would make me feel a lot better as well. I really wanted them to walk out of rounds 2 and 3 with a safety or a linebacker. I preferred safety because linebackers just really aren't important in the kind of defense that the Eagles play. And, they also don't value linebackers. So I figured, let's get a safety and, I'd be happy. And then the weirdest thing I think I've ever been a part of happened, and the Eagles took Jalen Hurts. And again, I love the idea of Jalen Hurts as a backup quarterback. Love the idea. I love Jalen Hurts. I have nothing against him. I think he's great. I think he could absolutely be a starting quarterback in the NFL, which leads us to our issue. Why at 53? He would have been there in the 4th round. They were in the middle of that lull where quarterbacks were not on anybody's radar. They were in the middle of that. Let me see if I can figure out how long it was until another quarterback was taken after that.
I think it was either late 3rd or middle 4th when Eason went to the Colts. It might have been in the 3rd where Eason went to the Colts to kind of be groomed behind Phillip Rivers and kind of be the next guy in Indianapolis. While you're looking that up, because we're going to spend a lot of time on Jalen Hurts, I just want to kind of talk about Jalen Reagor for a minute.
Absolutely.
I look at this from this standpoint. I am tired as an Eagles fan watching the draft of watching first-round picks come up, and they're not as you so eloquently put it, the sure thing. Okay. I understand that Jalen Reagor is a burner. I understand that he had bad quarterback play. Justin Jefferson, on the biggest of stages of college football, continued to make catch after catch, to get touchdowns, to gain yards. And I understand that the analysts on TV are not always 100% correct. But when a majority of the top analysts of the draft, the Daniel Jeremiahs, the Mel Kipers, the Todd McShays, all these guys had Jefferson really high up and Reagor not nearly as high up, I am sick and tired of and I've put this on Twitter numerous times over the course of the last 4 or 5 days. I am tired of the arrogant mentality of, we're the smartest in the room, we're playing chess, the rest of you are playing checkers. That only works when your track record says that you're good at that. Howie, your track record does not say that you're good at that. In fact, it says you are god awful at that. You have consistently tried to sell us on being the smart. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, now the kid might turn out to be okay, but you tried to sell us on the idea, well, here's a name nobody's talking about, but we know him, so we're going to go about it. And to go with, first of all, I understand, I'm not saying they didn't try to trade up, but I think it was a punk and a weak move on Howie Roseman's part to not do whatever it took, especially once CeeDee Lamb gets to 16. I don't care if you're giving up. The whole time was saying, all right, I don't want to give up 53. I don't want to get no. Once he gets to that point, you give 53 up, especially after we see what the hell you did with it.
I mean, you look back and you start with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and you draft him over DK Metcalf. DK was the obvious choice there. He just is a freak of nature athlete, and you wanted to try to outsmart everybody. So you start there. They didn't draft a wide receiver in 2018. Going back to 2017, they draft Mac Hollins. They draft Shelton Gibson. 2016, which I guess was Howie's first draft back, they didn't draft.
Kelly.
Yeah, post Chip Kelly, they did not draft a wide receiver. Then in 2015, with Chip Kelly, they drafted Nelson Aguilar. 2014, did Chip Kelly do that draft, or did Howie do the 2014 draft?
I think they both did that. But if you remember the Nelson Aguilar draft, there were a lot of other receivers on the board.
Oh, yeah. That was still not the ideal choice there.
And this guy came out of left field.
2014, doesn't really matter who did the draft, because they took, in the second and third round, they took Jordan Matthews and then Josh Huff. How'd that all go? You get back to 2013. No receivers taken. 2012, Marvin McNutt. You know who that is?
I know the name because I remember when they drafted him, I was like, oh, because he was tall. He was really big. That's what I remember about Marvin McNutt. I could be wrong.
They did not pick one in 2011. 2010, Riley Cooper. Well, we all saw how that played out.
And he's the most successful one they've drafted.
Yeah, well, then 2009, they drafted. The 2009 draft, rounds 1 and 2, sensational. Then Jeremy Maclin and then LaShawn McCoy. Fantastic.
You know who's here?
What?
That's Andy Reid's draft. That's not even Roseman. That's when Reid was here, and Reid controlled the draft.
I mean, and then after that, they took Cornelius Ingram, Victor Harris, Fanuki Tupou, Brandon Gibson, Paul Faneka, and Moise Foku.
You know what was funny? I was so pumped when they drafted Cornelius Ingram. He was a tight end from Florida that he kept tearing his ACL. He had unbelievable talent, and he just could never get healthy. But look, the fact of the matter is, their track record is not good enough to be the smartest guy in the room. You cannot go into the draft with that mentality after what you've done. This draft was as important as any draft as you've been in, and it was botched. Rounds 1 and 2 were botched totally. And it's not that there was a lack of good, like you said. First of all, I think it was a weak move not trading up. I'm not giving him a pass for that, because you need to make that, especially when you know damn well you're about to watch CeeDee Lamb go to Dallas, where now him and Amari Cooper. Okay, so now you got Darius Slay to cover.
That physically makes me ill.
Yeah. Great. Darius Slay can cover Amari Cooper. Great. You now have to cover CeeDee Lamb. That was the other reason why I don't know why you don't go Christian Fulton. You don't have a guy to cover CeeDee Lamb. You don't have him.
And I mean, here's the thing. Screw Jerry Jones in every which way. I applaud him for that move because they didn't need him at all. That was a pure FU move to the Eagles. It was pure response to the Dallas Goedert thing. I would have done the same thing. Well played, Jerry. Well, and you saw it on his face. You saw that stupid little smile on his face, and you knew. And I was like,
no, it was definitely an FU. But you know what else it was? It was a draft the best prospect on the board, regardless. Okay, the Eagles did not do that in the first round, and then in the second round, I just don't understand the thought process when there are 15 guys that can help you immediately on the board.
And I don't think he was the best player on the board that was there by far. Not by a long shot. To answer your question, by the way, so that was 53. The next quarterback wasn't taken until 122.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So now, if they really wanted him, they could have somehow managed to trade up in the 4th round to get him. Listen, even if they would have taken him in the 3rd round, if they would have taken a safety or a linebacker at 53 and taken Jalen Hurts in the 3rd round, I think that changes completely.
It changes everything. Would we still? We would.
The optics on it are so different.
Yeah, I think we still would be like, ooh, man, what But it would this vitriol that we feel right now would not be nearly as high because it's once you start the first look. I don't know. I'm not a draft expert, but I watch it every year. And to me, the first and second round, you got to get starters. You got to get guys that are immediate impact players from day one. Round one, maybe they did. Obviously, Jalen Reagor's going to play. Okay, we could be unhappy with it. I'm still unhappy with it. I still believe the safer pick, which is sometimes the better one to go with, was Justin Jefferson. I agree with you that maybe Minnesota takes Reagor next, but I'm telling you right now, when Minnesota saw that the Eagles were taking Reagor, they were so thrilled that if you remember before the Eagles pick was announced, ESPN had thrown the cameras to the house of Justin Jefferson, who was on the phone cheering. And they thought it was because Minnesota could not wait to get on the phone to tell Justin Jefferson he was coming there.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Regardless of how, say Justin Jefferson is a bust, right? If the Eagles would have taken Justin Jefferson and he did not pan out as we had expected, that's not on the Eagles for trying to outsmart themselves. That's taking the unanimous best player available at that position at that time, and no one would have predicted what had happened. Right. You know what I mean? Right. It's things like, there are several players that's happened to in the past where you expect this person to, they're number 1 overall picks that are supposed to be sensational when they get to the NFL and, just don't pan out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it just doesn't work out sometimes. It happens. Whatever. But I just think that it would be so different if everyone was like, yes, this is the guy we wanted, this is the guy we needed, and it doesn't work out, and you're like, well, we were all wrong. Now, say Jalen Reagor doesn't work out, which, I hope is not the case.
Yeah, we all hope that Jalen Reagor works out, and that's the problem I have with Twitter is people coming at you, coming at me, coming at everybody. We're not rooting against Jalen Reagor. We want the team to succeed, we want him to succeed. We just don't believe it was the right pick for that situation.
My preference would have been someone else, and that's my preference, not anybody else's, and everyone else can screw off because that's not your opinion. It's mine.
Right.
Leave me alone.
But it takes us to the second round pick, and there's so much to talk about with this pick of Jalen Hurts. First of all, you said it earlier, Jess. This is not anything against the person or the player, Jalen Hurts.
I love the idea of Jalen Hurts as the backup quarterback.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a great kid. He's a hard worker. I want this kid. He's a kid you would love to see succeed in the NFL.
For sure.
But here's the problem I have, okay? And there's so many different levels to this, so I'm going to try and do it little by little. Number one, the first thing that pops out to my mind is Not that me or you think Jalen Hurts is going to replace Carson Wentz.
Mhm.
But the fact of the matter is, Howie has a disconnect from the fan base, because when Howie was specifically asked that question the night of round 2, his response was, I don't think anybody in here or anybody thinks that there's going to be a quarterback controversy with Jalen. Do you not know your fan base? Your fan base is finally starting to somewhat fizzle from the Nick Foles Carson Wentz debate, which has lasted for 3 years. And now you have brought it back. Because here's what's going to happen. Jalen Hurts has a good preseason, right? Young kid playing against all these guys. He has a good preseason. First game of the season. Carson Wentz has a couple bad series in a row. What do you think Twitter's going to light up with? And this is why you drafted Hurts. It's time for her. You have created a public, forgive my language, shitstorm here. You've created a shitstorm that was not needed at all, and it's unfair to your franchise quarterback. It's totally unfair.
It's absolutely unfair, especially because listen, he's missed 8 regular season games in 4 years. Right. That's not a lot. 13 total, including playoffs, right? He played 16 games his first season in the NFL. He came back from a broken rib in preseason and started week 1. Oh, and by the way, lit the world on fire. Granted, They played the Browns, but in front of the home crowd, first game as a rookie, people aren't too sure about you. You were obviously going to go high in the draft regardless, but, trading up the way they did to pick this quarterback from North Dakota State, it's a pretty hostile environment sometimes at the link. It just happens. 16 games played. His second season, he came out, the bounds that he took forward, he doesn't get enough credit for getting them to where they were. So Nick Foles could play 3 terrible games in a row and still somehow have that time to play 3 terrible games, yet they win the NFC. They won the NFC East when they played the Rams to get the number 1 seed, get the first round bye, and then he was able to find a rhythm to get them to and win the Super Bowl. But without Carson putting them in the spot they were in, Nick doesn't have that wiggle room.
It never gets there.
Right. So, and then the next year, so he, goes down with a freak torn ACL, right? Then the next year, he breaks his back because he was tasked with doing everything because everyone else was useless, dropping the ball, not protecting him well. That line did not play well at all. Jason Peters had a terrible 2018
he shouldn't
season.
have come back. He wasn't ready. Wasn't ready.
Absolutely. And then the defense was bad. There were a couple, think about it. The Titans game, the Panthers game, all these games where Carson puts you in a position to win and the defense can't hold it together in order for that to happen. Carson leads the field with a 17-point lead here, 14-point lead here. Hold on to it. It's not rocket science. Then you get into 2019. Carson once again plays 16 games. He has some, ups and downs, but he's also playing with baggers from ShopRite at wide receiver. And he wills that team to the playoffs and then gets cheap-shotted and completely cheated out of his chance to show what he can do in a playoff game. He stays in that game. They blow the absolute doors off the Seahawks. I firmly believe they win that game by double digits. No question asked. And I don't mean 10 points. I mean 17 to 20. They win that game. There's no question in my mind. So the fact that he went out there and gave every last thing he had for that team in 2019 when there's people talking to Josina Anderson and there's all the locker room issues and then the people still talking about, oh, we shouldn't have let Nick Foles go. And there's so many questions on who's going to be on the roster next year. And the wide receivers are dropping like flies and no one's reliable. Everyone's dropping the ball physically and mentally. There's just so many things going on. And the one thing that was consistent was Carson never backed down. And he absolutely willed that team to the playoffs. And he was we talked about this. we felt cheated out of what we could have had, what he could have had, and I felt so awful for the guy that happened. Now, I've talked to a few, people. That was a bad concussion. That was a bad couple hours for Carson Wentz. We don't know how bad, but it was bad. And the fact that in return for what he has done for them over these last couple years and what he provided to this team and this city over the last couple years, that they reward him by drafting Jalen Hurts in the second round with the 53rd pick as his backup. I don't agree with that at all. Also, and furthermore, when asking Doug about, Carson's a starter, and he was like, we bring guys into camp for competition, and no one, not even the starting quarterback, is immune to that. No,
BS.
No, you have all of these opportunities to squash all these issues, and you are saying, on top of everything else, on top of just the bare minimum optics of the entire thing, the fact that no one can shut their damn mouth and they keep talking in circles, they are just making it so much worse for themselves.
Yeah. And that's really what is disheartening. And the pick of Jalen Hurts pissed me off more about their first round pick because it made me feel validated in the idea that they think they are smarter than everybody else. And when I hear, so a couple other things we've heard. When Howie Roseman says, the difficult part of my job is not only, am I trying to help this team now, but I have to worry about the future as well. Yeah, you do. But when you you are not a complete roster. You're not even close to a complete roster. You can't spend your second round pick on a backup QB who, in the best case scenario, does not see the field, by the way, unless the rest of your roster is filled out to the max. And guess what? If he believes that his roster is filled out to the max, he's a bigger jackass than I ever thought he was. And I'm telling you, this pick, and I know it's not going to happen. I know this is not, but I am firmly behind this statement. This pick is a fireable offense. It's 100% something that can make this guy lose his job. And I know Jeffrey won't do that, but what you've done is you've opened up, as you said, you've opened up Pandora's box. Now people don't think you trust Carson Wentz. Whether you do or not, the public perception is going to continue to be you don't trust your franchise quarterback. Secondly, if you don't trust your franchise quarterback, why'd you throw all the money you threw at him last year? Okay? And then he plays 17 games for you, gets cheap-shotted, gets you to the playoffs with a band of just misfits at wide receiver, and you reward that by drafting if you want to draft a quarterback in the 4th or 5th round and be your quarterback factory, you idiot, then do that. You don't draft a guy in the 2nd round. You've been talking about Jalen Hurts being the backup. Obviously, that's the case right now. Okay, I'm going to put this out there. Jalen Hurts has been seen by many scouts as a great kid, hard worker, but a project. He's not necessarily this go-get-him NFL quarterback from day one. He's got a lot of things that he needs to work on. So, you mean to tell me if Carson Wentz goes down, we are supposed to be confident with a rookie quarterback who's never taken a snap and is going to come off the bench cold turkey in the NFL, rather than spend a little money and go sign a backup veteran for 2 years who knows the game? Okay, someone said,
Joe Flacco.
Yeah, well, someone said, someone on the radio today said, who would you have rather had, Jalen Hurts or 41-year-old Josh McCown? I'd rather have 41-year-old Josh McCown. He knows the game. The NFL game is different. How many quarterbacks outside of number one picks and things of that nature come in on day one and light the world on fire?
It's simple enough. You don't get to call yourself a quarterback factory when you draft Clayton Thorson and Matt Barkley.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, you mean to tell me that your rationalization is, hey, now we got a great backup quarterback. We don't know that we have a great backup quarterback. We have a guy that was great in college, but guess what? Gino Torretta was great in college. Matt Barkley and Matt Leinart were great in college. These guys were great in college. That doesn't always mean they're going to be great in the NFL. So really, as much of a risk as picks in the draft are, you just risked, as you call, one of the critical spots on your football team, the backup quarterback, rather than signing a guy who's been in the league, who knows how it's done, whether it's Joe Flacco. I don't even care. I mean, Jesus Christ, it could have been Case Keenum for all I care. Somebody that knows the game.
I would have taken Case Keenum as the backup quarterback. Case Keenum took the Vikings all the way to the NFC Championship game.
And to be entirely honest with you, I still would sign a veteran backup because I don't know that Jalen Hurts is ready for that role, as pivotal as everyone wants to tell me that it is. I'll be honest with you.
But here's the thing. They might not at this point because they already have Nate Sudfeld under contract.
Yeah.
They've already got 3 quarterbacks in the room now. What are they going to do? Not let Jalen Hurts make the roster? That would be the icing on the cake if they cut him and he didn't make 53.
There's no way that's happening. But, you know, and then people say, well, you know what they're going to do? They're going to groom him and they're going to trade him in 2 years. That's great. Your window with Carson shrinks every year. Why? Because every year a guy gets older, right? And right now, Carson is entering what should be the prime of his career, right? Year 5, 6, 7, 8, those years. And now he's got to look. He just got rid of the Nick Foles lurking on his shoulder. And now I don't care who you are. Everyone says, well, you should want competition if you're a competitor. That's BS. He shouldn't have to be looking over his shoulder. And guess what? When you put a second-round pick on a quarterback, he's looking over his shoulder.
He has earned the right to not have to look over his shoulder.
Especially what he did last year.
And he has earned the right to not look over his shoulder because of something that his coach and GM put there for him. Like, they manufactured this. They created this issue for him to look over his shoulder. Like, he has earned not having to do that, and he should have earned that from them and them protecting him. Instead of ever throwing anybody else under the bus at any point in time, no one had, like, you think about it, have you ever heard any of them really defend Carson?
No.
No. But everyone else gets defended. The Nelson Aguilars got defended, and the Alshon Jeffries got defended, and anybody else who was hurt and taking their time coming back from injury, which I don't disagree with, but, you know, just the vague statements I get. It's never, like, even when they've lost to the Seahawks. You can spew all your BS about that's a good football team. You got, blah, 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 blah. You can give me all that. Great. I understand that it's necessary. It's the right thing to do. It's, say whatever. But if you, like, over my dead body, would I be a head coach in the NFL who just watched what happened to my quarterback, and I wouldn't get up on that podium and say, this is a disgrace. The NFL needs to take a serious look at this. Consider what happened here. This was not okay. This was a cheap shot. You can say it's a bang-bang play all you want, but there was no need for him to lower his helmet the way he did. It's not his first time. It wasn't his last time in the game acting like that. And you need to defend your quarterback until the end of time because he, as we talked about before, willed his way to where he was and got cheated out of that playoff game that he would have won. I don't care how much that fine costs. You got that extension for millions and millions of dollars. You have the money to pay a fine from the NFL for criticizing the referees. Because guess what? All of the other coaches who believe in their quarterbacks will fight to the death for them, and they will pay any fine. And that's not even just in football. That's in any sport when their star player, their number one player, anything like that happens, they are openly criticizing the referees and criticizing the league, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
There is nothing wrong with that. And listen, this whole thing, like, and every time they talk, I don't believe anything they say. I don't believe anything he says, or Doug or Andy Wideout. And look, here's another. I could justify it if there was no one on the board that could have helped you immediately. And we know that's not the case. We know that
the case of the second round.
No, especially this second round that was so freaking deep. Jeremy Chin, I pounded the table for last week when we talked about him. Denzel Mims falls to 53. That's a spot where it's a steal. Christian Fulton was supposed to go in the first round, the corner out of LSU. He's there at 53. There are defensive ends. There are linebackers. Hell, there are even offensive linemen I would have considered.
I told you, I would have taken J.K. Dobbins at that spot just because he was one of the best players on the board.
Yeah.
1-2 punch with him and Miles Sanders? Sign me up.
Yeah. But no, you don't get the help that Carson needs. Instead, you get the pain of having to watch over your back now. And I don't know Carson from the next guy, but he has every right to be pissed. And this is an absolute disservice to him by the organization.
They could have literally drafted. That is the worst possible pick they could have made at 53. They could not have made a worse choice of
I'll go one step further.
Or player.
It is. 53. I would say that I have been following the draft like that. I will watch since McNabb got drafted. So I'll go back to 99 or whatever it was. It is the single worst draft pick that I have ever seen them make. Yes, that includes Danny Watkins. That includes Marcus Smith. That includes Kevin Kolb. Why? Because Danny Watkins might have been a terrible name, but it was an offensive lineman, and you knew they built in the trenches. Marcus Smith was an unbelievable reach, but they wanted an edge rusher, thought he could be it. McNabb was starting to get older when they drafted Kevin Kolb. There were glimmers of reasons for doing it. There's not here. There's not one. The injury prone is a bogus tag. As you said, he's missed 8 regular season games in 4 years. Okay? So I don't want to hear that crap anymore. And it makes no sense. And when you can't actually pinpoint why you did it, why your story has changed in every interview, it proves the point. You might as well just come out and say, look, we're smarter than all of you, because that's what this pick screams. This pick screams, we want to be the smartest in the room and show you that we know better. That's it.
I'd be okay if they said that. I'd be like, okay, fine. Deal.
I'd be like, I hate you. And look, Howie Roseman can't come back from this for me. And you said this over the weekend, and we've talked about this before. When it comes to managing the cap, he's a whiz. Even to a certain extent with trades, he does a good job. He is one of the single worst drafters I've ever seen. And I thought Al Davis and the Raiders were bad drafters. No, not after what I saw this year. Not after what I saw this year. And we're going to get to their later round picks now. And I'm going to tell you, they got some speed in the later rounds. I'm pissed they waited. And they kept trading back in those later rounds. Tyler Johnson from Minnesota was on the board 3 separate times when they traded back on that last day. And then they end up with guys such as John Hightower and Quez Watkins, which literally are guys that they're throwing a dart at a dartboard and hoping to hit a bullseye. They don't know. All they know is they run really fast. Because if you read both guys' scouting reports, one of the biggest things they talk about with both of them, I believe John Hightower's scouting report said he will drive you mad with his drops. That was his scouting. And then Quez Watkins, he's a burner. He played. So I don't know. I don't know anything about the kid. But you drafted Jalen Reagor, who is not a sure thing. But listen, a lot of people said, I had Justin Jefferson higher, but Reagor has flown up draft boards lately. There seems to be a lot of positivity around this guy. And Chris, Mr. Crockpot, who I'm doing Party on Broad with, they love this kid. I mean, and this is all they do is they just look at this draft. So I'll take your word for it. I hope the kid works out. But you should have had another insurance plan there, and you didn't. You didn't. Look at what the Broncos did for their young quarterback who hasn't proven anything. Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. Look at the San Francisco 49ers who were, minutes away from a Super Bowl championship last year. Brandon Ayuk in the first round. They're building their team to help their quarterback, not to put someone over their shoulder. It's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. So let's move on to some of the other things. Touch on them a little bit, and then kind of wrap it up. Give our grade on the draft. I want to talk about some of the other NFC East teams and what they did over the weekend. So Davion Taylor is the 3rd round pick, linebacker out of Colorado. He's small, but he's super fast for a linebacker. The issue with him is he didn't play a ton in high school because of a religious commitment. He was not allowed to be. Yeah, he would play a half. So
No,
I
he
like
played a game and a half. 1.5 games.
So I'm a fan of the pick. I think he might, like, I expected him to maybe get picked in the 4th round, but whatever. I'm not a good enough draft guru to tell you it was a reach or not. It is what it is. I like the kid, and to be honest with you, he's the most athletic linebacker on your team already. Okay, just by walking on. I love the fact that he has a speed. He's got to learn a little bit, but I think he's someone who could contribute for you this year. But it's not a given, which is a frustrating thing. I like givens.
I think the thing that is the saddest part is we walked into the last day of the draft, and the most exciting thing was a half linebacker, half safety project that no one's ever heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
That says everything you need to know about this draft, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he, like I said, I think the kid has an opportunity to be a pretty good player for them.
Yeah, for sure.
He's
just a serious athlete.
Yeah, he's going to be able to cover guys out of the backfield, slot receivers. He's got the quickness to stay with these guys. So we'll see how that one goes. But I was okay with that pick.
Yeah,
I was okay
same.
with that. So then day 3 comes. You know, the Eagles have 3 4th-round picks. Okay, they have 3 4th-round picks. And to me, their first 4th-round pick was maybe their best pick of the draft. And that's the safety out of Clemson, Kevon Wallace. He was a captain there, one of the leading tacklers there. Just plays the position, and I'm not saying he's as good as him, but he's almost like your Malcolm Jenkins replacement. He comes up in the box. He'll play in the slot. He'll go play the deep half. I think that this kid is hopefully that next safety / leader that we talked this defense can get. And any Clemson safety is okay by me.
Absolutely.
Big fan of that. So I'll take the Clemson safeties. A little slower than what people like, but
well, when you compare it to the rest of their draft class, who is slow?
Yeah. And then this is where, so they had picks, if I am correct, so they had 127, and then it was 144 and 145. They traded out, or 145 and 146. They used their 145 pick. They take a guard from Auburn by the name of Jack Driscoll. Big kid. He was a tackle in college, but they think because of how his arms work and, short arms, that he's going to have to move inside the guard. In the 4th round, it is okay to draft depth pieces, especially for your offensive line. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's going to happen there over the next few years. You need backup guys. He may end up working his way into playing time. I don't know, but I like that pick. I think that was a nice pick. Good. Great. Not the sexy pick, but no offensive lineman really ever is. I don't know how you felt about that one.
No, I was totally fine with that. I think they do absolutely need depth there. You don't really know what's going on. You don't know, and you had some injuries there last year. At one point, you had your entire right side of your line was kind of all over the place, and especially in terms of, Jason Kelce's kind of a year-to-year question, and just having another piece there to kind of go along with the Jordan Mailatas and the Matt Pryors and things like that. I think that's a good, solid pick for them.
And this kid has versatility that he almost reminds you of a Todd Herremans in the sense where he could play. He's going to probably be a guard, but he can slide out and become a tackle, and if you need be in like an injury situation or something like that. Okay. Then at 146, instead of drafting Tyler Johnson, instead of drafting Donovan Peoples-Jones, these wide receivers who have some track record to them, they trade out. And then they trade again. They just continued to trade. When there were guys on the board that could have helped. They're the receivers. The edge rusher I wanted was a guy by the name of Bradley Anae from Utah, guess who got him? The Dallas Cowboys end up getting him later on in the draft, who I think could be a steal for them. And so they trade back to round 5, number 168 overall, and they take the guy that we talked about, John Hightower. Yep, fast, burner. At the same time, they're trading for Marquise Goodwin. I understand they didn't give up anything, so it's, low risk, but I personally think the reward is low too. You're talking about a guy who's had 2 critical injuries the last 2 years, who hasn't had a legitimate season since 2017. So, whereas I'm not mad at it, I'm just not excited. It's just he's a guy that could end up getting cut with the amount of roster moves they made toward a wide receiver.
I just think that they had, like, that was supposed to be their last resort move. Like, if they didn't get any of the big four or what have you, they were going to try to trade for Marquise Goodwin. Now you had an opportunity to do lots of things there. So it felt like a last resort panic move to me.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like at that point, after the Jack Driscoll pick, they just panicked. Like, they went into sheer panic mode with wide receivers. And I think that's also in return of the response they got from the Jalen Hurts pick, which, you know, from A, the fan base, B, the media, C, I'm sure there are people on the team that had a problem with this. Whether it be Carson, whether it be some other guy. Like, I think there's no way this was, you know, of the guys on the roster right now, there's no way they were 100% all on board for this pick. So I think it was a panic move in terms of, I just think after that they were really uneasy with what they did, and I think they might have just been like, oh, now we need to actually do something.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's like that meme that's like the panic button. Like, you hit the panic button and you draft John Hightower, Quez Watkins, and trade for Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah,
like,
and look,
happens.
I'm not even going to sit here and act like I watch Boise State. I'm going off of reading scouting reports from guys that just do this for a living. They say he's fast, you know. But to me, he's a major project. He drops balls constantly, is what they said. He said they will drive you mad with dropping balls. So I mean, I'm not pissed. I'm not really excited. Yeah, you got more speed. In round 6, 196, they draft another linebacker. This time they stay local. They draft Sean Bradley from Temple. Sounds like a kid that they need to develop, but he has potential at the linebacker position. But until then, was a very good special teams player at Temple. And you'll probably see him probably contribute on the special teams. Fine.
I was excited about that pick. I always love the people who are like hometown people. Who, I think there's something different that can't be replicated of Philly kids getting to play for the Eagles. There's just something that I don't think there's any other team in the NFL that can say that has the same kind of feeling and same kind of passion that would come from a hometown kid getting to play for that team.
Right.
And I just think that I love when that happens. So I'm excited about that.
It's a cool story, and I hope the kid works out. Chris from Party on Broad, you know, follows Temple football because I guess he's Temple alum. Said this kid can play. So he's a good player, but he's got to learn the system, got to learn the game. Then we talked about Quez Watkins. Don't know a lot about him outside the fact that he ran a 4.35 40-yard dash. I think it's very clear that the Eagles were trying to get speed in this draft. I mean, you look up and down it. You look at the undrafted free agents they signed. They sign a quarterback that they're going to turn into a running back. They signed a running back that just flies. So, you know, they signed a lot of speed. He did lead Conference USA with 1,100 yards. So, you know, maybe not a finished product, but somebody worth investing in. But once again, is he going to contribute right away? I don't know the answer to that. I would say no. Round 6 was interesting because leading up to the draft, we had heard the one commercial that ESPN was playing a lot was about this young man from Nigeria who came over to play basketball and then became a football player. He was an actual prince, and he played at Auburn. And a lot of people had him going earlier in the draft, and he kind of slipped a little bit because of the size of him. He's 6'5", 308 pounds, and that is Prince Tega Wanongo, who seems like just an Eagles type of pick. You know, big guy. You know, give him time to develop, but could be, you know, maybe he's an heir apparent to somebody. Maybe he's learn and be a depth guy until Lane Johnson retires and he comes in. I don't know. But, you know, he's a huge, huge man. Huge man.
6'8".
So, yeah. So I'll take him. And then they finally draft the defensive end that I could have swore was coming earlier. They draft Casey Toohill, who was actually an outside linebacker at Stanford. They take him as a defensive end. You know, he had 8.5 sacks last year. He is known for being a great run stuffer. Maybe he works his way into a rotation. It's competition for the Josh Sweats and those guys in the world. So
and
that
just to make a quick point, I don't know if you saw this earlier, but keep in mind, Deshaun Jackson also posted on his Instagram story today that he's, I think, well aware of the speed that the Eagles have tried to add, and said, they got me effed up if they think I'm the third wide receiver. I'm still a number one wide receiver. Trust that. I promise. Keep that same energy. So things are going well, swimmingly.
Well, my guess is that's more so directed at fans because he came out after the draft.
I'm just saying that's out there today.
Yeah, I know. He came out during the draft and talked about how excited he was for the speed. My guess is people, he's reading analysts and people saying Rager's number one, blah, 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 blah. Here's my issue. The receivers are not big. They're not big. None of them. So, bump and run coverage, I don't know how it's going to work out. Hopefully these guys can get off the ball. We've been in that position before where we had receivers that couldn't get off of bump and run coverage. Todd Pinkston comes to mind. So, Jess, before we take a look at some of the other teams real quick, I want to know your grade, your overall grade for this draft for the Philadelphia Eagles.
A D. I hate everything about this draft. It makes me so mad the more I look at it.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm not.
Is Nola causing over there?
Yeah, Nola's terrorizing the kitchen. We took her on a little. She's allowed to go outside again.
Yes, I remember saying that.
She's very excited. Yesterday was her first day. I was like, "Come here." Yesterday was her first day outside, and we took her, staying 6 feet away, nice and far away, but took her to a little patch of grass that's outside of Sam and Dion's apartment so she could meet Nellie, and so Sam and Dion could meet her. Oh, sleepy pup. I don't know. But Nellie's like 16 times her size. Nellie's like a bear compared to Lil Nola. So that was exciting. And Nola, she had to figure it out at first, and then once she did, she was like, all right, girl, let's go. I think Nellie was a little scared of her by the end, actually. Right? So you were sleepy pup now. And then she took a bath. She was not happy about it. We tried to use the blow dryer to get her to dry. She did not like the blow dryer.
Yeah.
We thought maybe she'd like it because it was warm.
No, not a fan. Not a fan. So, all right. So you're giving a D here is what you're giving.
Yeah, I'm upset with it. The only thing that makes it better is snuggling a puppy. I lost sleep over this. After round 1 and 2 and 3, those 2 nights, I straight up lost sleep.
Yeah. So I'm right with you. I'm gonna give it a C-, so just a tad bit higher. And the only reason was they did address that idea of speed, which we talked about. I don't know how good it's going to be, but they at least addressed an idea when it comes to speed. But that's the absolute 100% highest I could give it because of the Jalen Hurts pick. I think it was an absolute disgrace. And Howie said he's got a responsibility to the fans. Well, you did a disservice to them too. What you did was an absolute disgrace. It was an absolute abomination. It was an absolute fireable offense. And if this season doesn't go well, I hope they put you out on your ass where you belong. That is where I am with Howie Roseman. He could trade for Yannick right now and sign God knows who else. Logan Ryan. He could do all kinds. I am at the point where I am done with him because of this draft. It's that frustrating. And you want to know what makes it
pretty over it.
Yeah. And you want to know what makes it even more frustrating, Jess?
What?
Let me just read you.
I don't want to hear it.
No, we talked about how when you draft, you hope to come out of every draft with at least 3 or 4 guys that can contribute, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right away, contribute right away. Well, I'm going to read you the draft of the major competition in the NFC East. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to tell you which guys I believe could play and contribute immediately this year. So, CeeDee Lamb. And everybody laughed, Dallas needs defense, and they're drafting CeeDee Lamb. Oh, okay. Well, 51, they get Trayvon Diggs, who was just one of the better cornerbacks on Alabama last year. The brother of Stephon Diggs. Then in round 3, they get Oklahoma's stud defensive tackle, Neville Gallimore. And then in round 4, in pick 123, they take the cornerback from Tulsa, Reggie Robinson II. Reggie Robinson II is a corner who could play right away on the inside. Okay. Nola causing issues.
Yes, 100%. She's like chewing on the cords, and it's ridiculous. She's awake now.
She's all wide awake.
Yeah.
Now, the next 2 picks, this is round 5, 146, and round 5, 179. Round 5, 146 might sound familiar to you, Jess. You want to know why? Because that was the Eagles' pick, and they traded it to Dallas. So they could trade a guy that was projected to go in the second or third round in Tyler Biadasz, the center from Wisconsin, who was thought to be a great piece to become a starting center in this league. So everyone talks about them losing their center to a retirement, and we traded him the pick to get his heir apparent.
Yeah. Not only did he totally screw this draft up for me, he also made a deal with the devil, which just like hurt me in ways I can't even explain.
And then in the midst of all the trade backs, the multiple trade backs that he just kept doing, when you know you really should get another edge rusher for your, committee there, this kid Bradley Anae, who was on Utah, who was an absolute animal last year, is sitting on the board, and you just keep trading out of the pick. And lo and behold, at 179, there's Dallas, Bradley Anae. So Dallas shored up their defense. Dallas had a
phenomenal draft.
Dallas got their heir apparent center after the sudden retirement of their all-pro center. And what did they do? They did take a quarterback, Jess, in the 7th round. To develop. Not the 2nd, the 7th. Okay? A-plus draft for the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm going to go one step further, and you're going to hate me and yell at me. They are the favorites to win the NFC East right now.
I still don't agree with that.
That's fine. They
were the favorites to win the Super Bowl last year and went 8-8. Thank you very much.
They sure
and lost to the Philadelphia Eagles that had, again, grocery baggers from ShopRite playing wide receiver. They lost because Sidney Jones made the game-winning play. Think about that for a second. Super Bowl favorites and Sidney Jones makes the game-winning play. No, thank you.
They shored up the spots that they needed to fill. They were true to their board. They did not do any BS. We're smarter than you. They just drafted guys where they fell.
I think they drafted well. I still think they're going to go 8-8 next year. It's what they do best.
Then I look New York Giants. Not a great draft for them, but they got 3 guys that I think could play right away. And Andrew Thomas, Xavier McKinney, and Matt Peart, 2 offensive tackles.
I wanted Xavier McKinney. He was who I had my eye on as a safety in the 2nd round. I knew he might not have been there at 53, but he was kind of who I was looking at.
So they only got a few guys, but hey, that's how many the Eagles got? Look at that number right there. 1. That's a 1. I want to hold up a different finger, but I'm not going to do it because it's a family friend. Then the Redskins. Okay. Chase Young. Antonio Gibson, wide receiver from Memphis.
Can I wait? Let me pause it at Chase Young for a second because I have a bone to pick with ESPN on this one. I want to understand why when they drafted Chase Young, so correct me if I'm wrong, the Eagles at this point on paper have the best offensive line in the NFC East, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why was it when they were talking about Chase Young entering the NFC East, they chose to say, oh, Carson Wentz is going to have some trouble on his hands? What about the rest? I don't understand. The Giants might as well not play with an offensive line. They're that bad.
I guess.
Like, it's the same.
I think maybe 2 reasons. One, they're the NFC East champions, which means everybody's coming for them. And 2, because he's going to go probably against a left tackle, and right now we have Andre Dillard, and
He played fine when he played at left tackle.
I know. Don't know yet. We'll see. But anyway.
Completely fine when he played at left tackle.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, we'll see. But Anthony Gibson, wide receiver from Memphis, Sadiq Charles is an offensive tackle from LSU, and Antonio Gandy Golden, who's a wide receiver from Liberty, Small school, but he was talked a lot about, and he went to pick 142. Eagles could have taken him at 127 and didn't. And all I know is Washington likes to hit on late round receivers, Terry McLaurin. So now Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gandy Golden. Okay, they got 4 guys that could contribute right away. The Eagles got 1. The rest of the NFC East got better. The Eagles did not. Maybe they got better for the future since that's part of Howie's job, but they did not get better for this year. So it also takes me back to this idea. You could say whatever you want, but obviously you're still in a retooling process because at least that's how you, whether you believe you are or not, that's how you drafted. You drafted project after project after project. Jalen Reagor's good, but I still look at him as a project, whereas I looked at Justin Jefferson as a plug and play. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And that, you say you're doing this for your fans, that's a disservice. You're almost making it like this season is just, if we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. That's the feel I get. From your offseason where, you did a good job with the free agents on defense, but totally ignored the offense, to then drafting nothing but projects on the offense. You did not help your quarterback, and in fact, you made it worse when you drafted a backup QB in the second friggin' round, and you should be fired for it. You won't be, but you should. So, Jess, now that I've had my rants, I told you I was coming in hot today. I told you I was coming.
Doubt it.
It was definitely going to be fired. There had to be. There had to be. This is my last opportunity. I already did my draft recap on Party on Broad. I don't have another time to just sit here and yell about it. I had to get it out of the way right here on the Madness, and I saved some of my best stuff for today, just for you, Jess.
I'm so thankful. Thank you for that. That makes me feel so special.
Yes. All right. So, Jess, we got a couple top 5 lists we talked about.
Yes.
And one, and I will put this out there in the beginning. We're not ripping Jalen Hurts, but obviously Twitter exploded on the pick, and there were quite a few good ones put out there. Some funny, some just straight to the point. And literally, I could have gone down a really dark rabbit hole today and looked up every single one, but I didn't. I just kind of found 5 things that I wanted to go with, and I went with it. So, Jess, but I want to start with you. Where are you at for one of your did you do them in order or no?
No, there's no real order to the tweets.
So give me your first reaction that you loved.
I saw a tweet from Blake Wexler that said, "The Philadelphia Eagles are responsible for the best moment of my entire life and also the worst."
Fair.
I thought that was pretty accurate.
Depressing, right on port. My first one came from @EaglesPMC. The Broncos supported Drew Lock by drafting Judy and Hamler. The Cowboys supported Dak Prescott by adding Lamb to Cooper and Gallup. The Eagles supported Carson Wentz by ... drafting Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. So my next one. So the Eagles earlier last week tweeted a meme of Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory looking at a picture of Howie Roseman in sunglasses, and the meme said, "Stunt on these haters." And the tweet from the Eagles was that picture, and it said, "You know what week it is." And so, someone at RREagles20 quoted the tweet and said, "And then what happened?" And that made me laugh really hard.
Well played. My next one is more so just I did it, but so many people did it. It shows you the greatness of Philadelphia and somewhat the greatness of Twitter. How many people change their Twitter handles to have something to deal with QB Factory in it? Like the tweet I just read came from @EaglesPMC, but his Twitter, but it now says Quarterback Factory as his name. I changed mine to Rob Langy and the Quarterback Factory. They were all over the place. The Quarterback Factory became the new thing after he friggin' said it like they were a goddamn college campus that is out there trying to recruit quarterbacks. This isn't Oregon. This isn't Alabama. This isn't Ohio State. We're not here to recruit quarterbacks. We're here to win Super Bowls. At least that's what the fans want. But Howie, you're just looking at this saying, I did it. I don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
You're up.
Am I?
Yeah. I just gave the QB
Oh,
fact.
right. Yeah. Jimmy Kemsky tweeted the morning after the Eagles selection of Jalen Hurts still makes almost no sense to me at all. It makes less sense to me than when they drafted a 26-year-old firefighter in the first round. Pretty self-explanatory.
And I said that. I said I agree with you 100%. My next one was a video. Unfortunately, I can't show the videos because of the vulgarity in them. But EDP, who is the best at reactions, had a couple. First of all, there's a video of his reaction to the pick where he just stands up and throws his hat and then just stands there with his arms wide. But then he lost his mind somewhere. And he does a video where he is just sinister laughing into the camera, and just he keeps saying, I effing hate you. I effing hate these guys. I effing hate you. And he's just sinister laughing for 2 minutes. And I gotta see if I can and retweet it, but it was pure gold because it was exactly I think how we all felt, and he just voiced it and put himself out there as the psycho. You're up.
Okay, next, at Snowman Embiid, he's also got some really, really funny tweets, a lot. He tweeted, with the 53rd pick in the NFL draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select the only thing they didn't need, and had a video of Carson Wentz throwing the tablet on the sidelines.
Well played. All right, my next one is at Kyle A. Madison. So Kyle Madsen. And he tweets, so the caption is Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz discussing that time their backups came in for them and won championships. And it's the Spider-Man meme where they both look exactly alike and they're pointing at each other.
Yep.
So that one, very, very cleverly done, if you ask me. So go ahead. What's your last one here?
My last one, Seamus Clancy tweeted, only the Eagles can make an entire city care about nothing but the NFL draft for a month, only to drop a piano on them before we even finish the second round. That pretty much sums up how I felt.
Well, the number one thing for me got a lot of pub. It got played on Barstool, 97.5 morning show, had the guy on because he's a frequent caller. His name is Jeff Nadu. He goes at Jeff Nadu, Nadu on Twitter. He goes by Big Man on Campus. He had a tirade of epic proportion where I guess he filmed himself during the pick, camera right up in his face, and he went bonkers. I highly suggest everybody look up the video. You can look it up on Barstool. You can look it up on Twitter. At Jeff Nadu, I'm sure it's on there somewhere. He tweets a ton though, so you might have to, go back to find it. But it is a priceless rant. It is outrageous. It speaks to all of us, and I'm giving him kudos for it. Here it is. So Barstool, by the way, 4 days ago, Barstool had tweeted it out. I can't play it because it's literally every other word is the F word.
Yeah, no, don't play that.
But it is fantastic. It's
fantastic. I'll have to look that up.
Yes. All right. So our other top five was we kind of mentioned at the beginning, Jess. I thought the NFL did a tremendous job with the virtual draft. I thought it went off pretty smoothly.
Yeah, it went pretty well.
Issues. I thought, having Goodell there was and just relaxed seemed good. I actually thought it was great when he was sitting in the chair and just chilling out. So all in all, good. But we wanted to take 5 moments that kind of stuck out to us as like our 5 favorite moments. So Jess, start us off.
So one of obviously all the boos. I think that goes without being said.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite moments was when Roger Goodell held up a single cupcake and was like, "I'm not eating M&Ms anymore. I moved on to a cupcake." I was like, what are we doing right now?
What a weirdo. But
it was really strange. It was like this perfectly iced cupcake, and he was like, "I moved on to a cupcake." I'm like, "Sweet dude, now I want cupcakes."
Number one, or I'm sorry. So my number 5 was just all in all. I thought it was so cool seeing the coaches and the GMs with their kids and high-fiving their kids and having their kids there. And sometimes the kids having a reaction they weren't happy. I thought that was a really cool element. And I thought it kind of humanized these guys a little bit. outside of Howie Roseman air high-fiving the computer after the Jalen Hurts pick. Uh, so I was a big fan of that. Your picture froze, Jess. Jess, are you there? Oh, you're back.
I'm back.
Did
yeah.
you hear?
Did you freeze?
Yo,
I heard it was cool seeing them with their kids and high-fiving the kids.
Yeah, and I said, except for when Howie Roseman air high-fived the computer because no one wanted to high-five him when he drafted Jalen Hurts.
Well, I wouldn't high-five him either, even if I was his child.
Sure.
The next one for me was 100% when Roger Goodell absolutely butchered the announcement of the 2022 draft being in Vegas. Oh my God. I wish I got paid that much money to just say complete BS on
he said the
national
2020 draft.
television.
He literally said the 2020 draft.
And he couldn't get his words out. He just, I don't know why that happened, but that was that was amazing to me.
Well, my
how many times have you said in the 2020 NFL draft, tonight?
Yeah.
What year it is, Roger.
Well, I will say this, although he had that mistake. My next one is just, I thought he came off good. I thought it was he seemed like a normal human being. He didn't seem like that uppity dude. Like I said, I think my favorite thing was the one moment they come back to him and he's chilling in his lounger and he's just laid back and he's got the quarter zip down. He looked like a Met, but he was just like, dude, this is awesome. I get to just sit in this rocker.
That's another one of mine where he just kept every time they kept coming back for picks and he was sinking lower and lower and lower into the chair.
It's almost like he was saying, I'm never here for round 3. What the hell?
This is too much.
It was great. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. Yelling at my TV whenever I saw players not social distancing and having a ridiculous amount of people in their homes that I know for a fact shouldn't have been there.
Yeah. Did you see the couple where they tried to hide people? There were people to the side, and it's dude, we could see them over there.
Well, they tried to do it with Tua. Tua had a zillion people in his house, and then when he actually got on camera for the pick to be made, there were only 6 people sitting there. Yeah. But I am connected with his agent on LinkedIn, and his agent was there.
Right.
You don't live there. Well, what are you doing? Why are you there hugging them?
Yeah. Look at that. Steal of the draft at pick 64. Jeremy Chin to the Carolina Panthers.
I can't even watch any of that. I can't even do it.
All right, my next one, I'll give you another Goodell one. Goodell doing the TikTok dance was so awful and daddish. You have to appreciate it.
For sure.
He put himself out there with it. That / actually, what I'm going to kind of do a slash here. That / Jerry Jeudy being in the Old Spice robe when he got selected because he's sponsored by Old Spice.
That was Henry Ruggs.
Henry Ruggs. Outrageous. Love him being in the robe.
I have two, my last one is 2, and it's John Hightower's grandmother. I don't know if you saw that clip, but that is the best thing to ever happen. Combined with CeeDee Lamb's girlfriend trying to take his phone. It's easily one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
She tried to tweet and say that the Cowboys, somebody was FaceTiming him, so she tried to pick it up and answer. Regardless, just that clip itself, I don't care what was happening. That is the funniest thing that has ever happened in an NFL draft, for sure.
That was my number one. That was excellent. That was absolutely outstanding. I loved every minute of that. The other one I wanted to say, just because, once again, this just kind of goes to the humanizing, and you don't get to see this necessarily when they're in the war room as much. When the Ravens, who, by the way, had another A-plus draft, drafted Devin Duvernay, I think it's Duvernay, out of Texas, the wide receiver. They kind of shot the John Harbaugh behind the desk, and it was almost as though he didn't expect him to be there. And when they made the pick, he was so animated and excited about the pick. It was such a cool thing to see. And he was interviewed after the draft, and he said, well, when we saw the Patriots trade up, I assumed they were trading up for him. So when they took the tight end, and I realized that we were going to get this guy, Oh, and by the way, they just added all kinds of receivers to go with Hollywood Brown from last year to help Lamar Jackson. So just to put that out there, they just said, why not? Unlike our team, there's a bunch of idiots. But it was just awesome to see his reaction, how pumped up he was at that point. So they are our top 5 list. Before we go, are you watching anything new we should tell our people?
Have I watched anything new? We're watching, we're watching the Marvel movies in order?
You did say that, yes.
That's what we're still working on that. We have this big issue that Joe can't stay awake for more than 15 minutes. So
disgraceful, Joe.
So it's like honestly pretty pathetic. It doesn't matter what time of day we're watching the movie. Like he's out. So like if it's at night, obviously like it's one thing when he's like sleepy. But Sunday he was like, or maybe it was Sunday. He was like, hey, you want to watch one of the movies? I'm like, yeah. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We turn it on and I look over and I'm like, hey. And then he's like, why are you always mad at me when I fall asleep? I'm like, because we're supposed to be watching these together. You've never seen them. I've never seen them. Like, why am I going to sit here and watch it by myself?
Where are you in the process?
Yeah. We just finished the second Captain America. Winter Soldier.
Oh, good one. Winter Soldier was a very good one.
Yeah.
That's one of the top ones of the whole series, Winter Soldier. Very good.
We're watching them from like in Marvel time order. Yeah. So that's where we are. It's like I don't know where it is in the sense of everything, but
yeah, I'm gonna look that up because that's something I would like to do. I mean, it's a little bit tougher for me because literally I'd have to do one a day because I can't watch them during the day because I have psychos who watch zombies too. And
I mean, we're essentially doing one a day or one every couple days, just with work and puppy. Which sometimes just doesn't, and different episodes of things and whatever, it doesn't necessarily allow for time, but when we can get one in, we do, and I'm enjoying them so far. I've never been a fan of them, honestly. Like I've told you, Iron Man 3 was our first date, and that to this point in time was the only one of those movies I had seen.
Right.
And I had never seen any of the other Iron Mans before. Like it just happened to be like that was what was in theaters, and he was like, hey, you want to go see Iron Man? And I was like, well, I'm not gonna say no. So I went, and like I'd never seen it again. So watching it, I was like, wow, now it all makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean I've never really been into them, never really had a desire to. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, they're fun. 2 shows. One I binge watched 2 seasons. They were 16 episodes a season, and I blew through it. Joe might have already watched. It seems like a show. The show All American on Netflix.
He's seen the first season. He hasn't watched the second one yet.
Oh man, I said there were times where I felt like a teenager and felt like guilty watching it because I was like, I'm 35 and I'm hooked on this show that is so CW, which is one of the creators of it. But I really liked the show, and I blew through that show. And then I just started, and I've already almost finished the whole season. It's only one season. Outer Banks on Netflix.
I've heard that was good.
It reminds me. It reminds you of one of those types of shows, the OC type of show. But there's a big treasure thing going on in there now, and it's that old school drama that you would normally watch as like a late teens, early 20s person. But I like to stay young. I like to stay fresh. So that's actually when we end the show tonight. I'm gonna go watch 2 episodes of that tonight. I don't go to bed till 1 a.m. I just literally watch TV shows now. My life.
Sounds good. I've been cooking and baking a lot. That's what I'm doing.
There you go. Well, there you go. All right. Make sure you check out The Madness on YouTube at The Painted Lines. Get over to thepaintedlines.com. Check out all those guys. Check out Babes on Broad with Jess and Stan Wilson. You can check me out with Mr. Crockpots on Party on Broad. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube. One thing we got to do, Jess, is I got to get the audios from you for all of our quarantine episodes and get them up on iTunes because we have not done that. And I would like to get them out there. But we will be up on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing to us. Jess, have a great week. Nola, have a good week, buddy. Have a good week. Yep. Attack. That's good stuff.
Yep. It's playtime.
We can all be pissed off together. The Sixers draft's coming up. I'm sure that'll piss us off too.
Good Lord.
Embrace the madness, everybody. Have a great week.